Welcome to the Functional Health Coaching Show, where we are here to support and answer your questions so that you can help people on a deeper level get real results and grow your health coaching business. Do you have questions you want to ask live on the show? You can call in every Friday at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 1-347-637-1378. Are you looking to increase your credibility and grow your health coaching business using functional lab testing and data-driven protocols so that you can confidently solve health issues? Well, we have the course for you. Go to fdn.today/show to learn more and sign up today. Okay, let's join today's episode.
Well, happy Friday, guys. You've tuned into the FDN Fantastic Friday Call, otherwise known as the Functional Health Coaching Show. Once again, it's October 30th, 2020. We were out last week on the 23rd, I think that's October, for the FDN Conference and the Functional Health Coaching Conference. So we're going to do a little bit of a little post-conference show here today. We'll answer some questions, but definitely going to give you some of the feel for what we experienced there in San Diego with the conference, and many of you guys did virtually, and talk a little bit about that and give you some thoughts and some takeaways from the conference. And also, we invite you guys to call in like usual, and if you want to make some comments about things you learned from the conference, or just want to say thanks for putting it together and the people that did the work, just make some comments. We'd love to hear from you. So to do that, you can call in at 347-637-1378. Again, that's 347-637-1378. Just hit 1 on your keypad, and you're welcome to ask questions about FDN and functional health coaching like we do. But if you want to make some comments about the conference, we'd love to hear from you as well. If you attended and had a good time, had some takeaways, some things you wanted to just express about it, I think it's good. There was a lot packed into the weekend, and you obviously you can't. There's simultaneous speakers going on, so you weren't able to make every room. So if you wanted to call with some takeaways, that'd be awesome. Otherwise, we'll have a good time here today. So we got about an hour or so in our call. We do this call every Friday. I should say I'm your host, Brandon Mollet, FDN practitioner and mentor, and I've got my partner in crime here, Ryan Monahan, also. We got to spend some time together face-to-face, helping out there. You probably caught us some on camera there at different times that are kind of headquarters there at the Hard Rock Hotel in San Diego. So we learned a lot and had a lot of fun, too, at the same time. So, Ryan, man, have you recovered from the trip?
I have. Got back last night, still kind of reeling from the conference. It's always such an exciting time, and there's always so much information I walk away with. I have so many notes just to kind of pour through and, kind of examine and go back and take a look at, right? Always walk away with having almost more questions than answers, but in a very good way, just being very kind of intellectually stimulated in a lot of different ways. So, yeah, it was so much fun. I hope we get some callers in today that can share with us about their conference experience, or maybe had questions about things that came up during the conference. I'm sure some folks are dying to ask some questions about what came up this past weekend and what we all learned. So, yeah, a lot of fun. Really, really great time to get to meet a lot of my fellow FDNs in person that I haven't met before. Of course, Brandon, you and I have met several times in the past, and I'm glad we got to have a chance to shake our booty on the camera a little bit. But yeah,
that's one thing that's an extra bonus you didn't know you were going to get from the conference right there.
I didn't even know that was going to happen. It just happened. Yeah. So yeah, good time all the way around. And the weather in San Diego was beautiful. We got to stay for a few extra days and do some sightseeing, but also good to be back home and back into the groove of things.
True, that's true. Yeah, I want to say thanks just to everybody that put this thing together. It's a ton of work, really, to do that. Even virtual compared to face-to-face, there's still probably the same amount of work, if not more, because it was a new thing where we had to quote pivot and do something a little bit different this year. And I feel like that it was really well done. We're getting really good feedback, and also want to thank you guys that attended. And if you were able to come and hang out with us in person, loved meeting people there in person. A few people are able to make it out, but also just you guys that stuck with it. Kept your ticket, attended everything. That was the energy. We always liked looking at the numbers of attendees in the Zoom rooms. You've got 100, 120, 180, 200 people in a room. You could feel that energy. That was just something so we thank you guys for just being there and your presence and your energy there live when you're able to make those calls live, because you get that. There's just something you're trying to capture there that you don't really get if you're just kind of watching some random webinar with people you don't really know. It's that we're all kind of bound together with the same principles, same philosophies, the same missions there, and the energy was felt. So in our headquarters room that we had there, we felt that energy. It wasn't just us trying to drum it up. It was already there, just with you guys being there. So thanks for attending as many as you were able to do, and again, hope you came away with a lot of things. I'll say one thing here. Actually, tell you what. Before we jump into kind of comments about it, let me congratulate a few folks. So we've got some graduates from last week and from this week, and I want to make sure these people are recognized, and then again we'll jump into kind of comments and some takeaways from the conference. And again, if you guys want to call in and ask a question, 347-637-1378, you can ask a question about what you learned at the conference or just make a comment about it. We're happy for that as well. So, all right, well, every week it's graduates, so we want to make sure these people get their due and their time in the spotlight for making it through the FDN course this year. It's a little tougher year, I think, in some ways than previous years, so I'm always impressed with people this year that have graduated the course, made it through, did all the things we asked you to do in spite of some of the challenges and difficulties of this year. So definitely a big thanks to these 7 people here, and we are... Well, we're going to throughout the United States. So California kind of reigns supreme on this one, but a couple from Wisconsin and then New Jersey. So first on the list is Hannah Chek from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And then we've got Tracy Toussaint, I'm sorry, one of the ways or the other, California. Kelly Wagner from California. Alvaro Campos from California. And then Katia Bouyer from Green Bay, Wisconsin. Jerry Carapalo from New Jersey, and then Patty Picanich, I think that's how you say your last name, Patty, and she's San Diego. So, guys, congratulations. Awesome job. Proud of you. Love it. 7 folks, and we're going to be graduating a lot more. I've seen them booking in, and we've got Shannon and also Tess helping out with some of those as well. So, trying to get you guys through the course and through the certification process as quickly as possible, because, hey, you want to get out there and you want to do some more good in the world and continue to, add. A lot of people at the course are adding to what you're already doing, and FDN is just this perfect fit to take what you do to the next level, or a lot of folks are making starts with business or career changes, which is amazing too. So either way, FDN is going to fit in there, and it's going to work for you. That's one thing I'll say this whole weekend here. It's great to learn. It's great to hear about different concepts and maybe some new things you didn't hear about or haven't been aware of before. But a big thing that I always feel good about is it sort of reaffirms everything that we already know. We all need that. We know that FDN works. We know that the model and the way that we support the health of the body, we know that it works. Reed's been doing it for 20 years. I've been doing it for 10 years. Ryan's right on our heels there, a few years behind, and we get to see it every day. We know that it works, but it is cool to come together. And like with this year, there were a lot of speakers that I didn't know them at all, had never heard of these speakers before, and listening to them and hearing that what they're seeing in their own practice with their own training, it mimics so much of what we do within FDN. There's a lot of commonalities, a lot of similarities. And so it's not just that we just pack the conference full of FDN practitioners or the same people that kind of help grow FDN. It's people kind of from outside a little bit that, again, I've never even heard of some of these people before. They had great presentations. But everything I'm hearing is like, yes, what you guys are doing, what we are trained in, it works. I see it. And it just reaffirms what we're doing. So I kind of have a shot in the arm as far as that goes, just an excitement, again, a reaffirming of the work that we're doing, that, hey, it's working across the board with lots and lots of people. They may not be an FDN practitioner, but what they're doing still at its root is a lot of what we talk about with FDN in our process. So that always excites me, gets me going, makes me want to get back to back home and start just continuing to do the things that we've been doing, but you get an extra little boost there through that. So that's one thing I always kind of feel. I love the data, knew the information, I like all the things to kind of go learn about and incorporate. But it's also that, hey, we're part of something pretty awesome, and a lot of the people are getting turned on to this and the way of working and approaching the body. It works.
It
Brian,
does.
what about you?
It really does.
Yeah. So what about you? What about some takeaways for you?
I really loved that analogy that Reed has been using lately and introduced at the conference, where he showed the image of the ripples in the pond and how that creates a series of nearly infinite concentric rings that are overlapping. And it's such a great analogy of how complex our metabolism and physiology actually are, and also highlights the point that not only is our physiology highly complex, but these reactions are going on, billions and trillions of times a second. And I absolutely love that Reed brought up this point that the root cause, we hear this term all the time, right? Find the root cause. It's been a buzzword in functional medicine for many, many years now, as long as I started kind of becoming interested in this field. And what Reed had said at the conference was that oftentimes the cause is actually unknowable, right? That our physiology is so complex, and to truly think that we can get an absolute grasp on what the singular root causes that's connected to our chronic illness or chronic symptoms is a bit misleading. And ultimately that ties us back to these DRESS principles, right? This kind of, or this singular metabolic diagnosis, if you will, of metabolic chaos and dysfunction, right? So I love that he said that, because that's even something that I go over maybe in slightly different wording or terminology with my clients, but it gets home the same point that, you shouldn't even really try to focus in on or stress out too much about what exactly is causing your symptoms. You don't really need to worry about that. You need to work on the entire body, non-specifically, dial in your diet and lifestyle, work on all of the identified stressors, right? But without thinking, oh man, this is the thing. This is the silver bullet. It's got to be this parasite that's causing all these problems. Like, well, that might be a starting place, but you may be dealing with food sensitivities and nutrient deficiencies and toxins in the system and a whole host of other issues. So I thought that brought it together in a really eloquent way. This kind of like, if you can imagine these concentric ripples that are all connected to each other, right? So that also tells us that there's no process in the body that's isolated from all of the other processes. So, that therefore tells us that, we can't go chasing these kind of singular, it's like a web, right? It's like a web of complex interrelated causes, and everything causes everything else. And that's kind of my way of describing metabolic chaos, is that everything causes everything else, right? In a way that should be relieving, in a sense, to not have to go chasing these singular root causes and just kind of, working on supporting the body in as many ways as possible. So Reed always bringing home the goods. It's always so inspiring every time to see him talk and to
it is.
see how his mind works. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Just always kind of recapping the story, the history of FDN. Reed usually does that, at least one time during the weekend, and I always get a tear in my eye. It gets to me. There's something fundamental and powerful about what we do. So I always look forward to that, to kind of that moment of like, hey, it's a lot of head stuff, right? A lot of on the logical, analytical side of things, the lab work, the numbers. But on the flip side, maybe even more important is the heart side of things. so we've got to have a little bit of a balance there for the weekend. So intellectually stimulated, but also, it's okay to shed a tear or just be touched by somebody's story or what we're doing. Both those things usually come up on a weekend like that. Somebody's going to share. There's going to be some information, be a story that's put forth. But yeah, I think to your point there on the root cause, can you find the root cause and the ripple effect and the holistic approach there? I think when you talk to people, they fundamentally know that the reductionistic single root cause symptom-based approach to health, there's got to be something more. So when you start to talk about this, like you said, whatever analogy you want to use, that concept, people automatically pick up on that. It's like they know there's something more, there's something that's not quite the whole story, there's got to be something else there. And I think once you start to put that into words, there's a major connection. That's your connection point there on your philosophical approach to health. How do you believe the body's put together? How do you want to approach your health? And so I think that's fundamental. That's got to be, that understanding right there has to be, you have to come together on the understanding to be able to work together fundamentally. Everything else is cool, but that fundamental approach to health, that set of expectations and that rationale, that has to be there. So always get good at expressing that to people. And most of the time you're going to find that it's going to be a huge, major, maybe an aha moment, but a confirmation of what they've thought for years. Like I've always thought that this was the case, or there's something different, or we could. You hear those type of phrases once you start to talk about this way of handling the body, and once that's there, then I think you're typically in a pretty good shape to bring a person on to get to work with you as your client. So good stuff this weekend. I guess past weekend. I guess we're already in next weekend. But amazing stuff. I know I think the recordings and stuff. It's actually I'm thinking maybe the recordings may be even better quality potentially than when you're doing a live presentation like we had there. So everything's going to be super good quality as far as recordings go. So you guys can go back and listen to those. I'm looking forward to going back and listening to things that I did miss because there's multiple speakers going on at one time.
Sometimes it was hard to choose. There were so many good presentations, and I definitely intended to go back and do some weekend viewing for sure.
Yes.
I would say too, just generally, I thought the virtual format exceeded my expectations. I mean, part of that was because, in a sense, we were there in person, and that was a lot of fun. But it was really cool to get to be able to comment in real time, and to be feeding off that energy from everybody in the room at the same time. And that's not something you would necessarily get from an in-person conference. So that was actually kind of like an unexpected surprise that I actually really liked about the virtual conference. And it'd even be neat if ever we return to an in-person conference in the future, it'd almost be neat if there was a way to continue to incorporate that, right? If there were some maybe virtual rooms going on where you're on your laptop or your iPad or whatever, and you're able to comment or ask questions in that group. I just thought it was really neat. And it's going to be fun to go back and watch all those recordings for sure.
Good point. Exactly. Maybe there's some aspects of the virtual that will come into the in-person when we eventually get back to in-person. So just trying to maximize, our time, and I think people are kind of used to that flow of information, the kind of going over there on the side and questions that come up, and everybody gets to see them and hear them. Sometimes when you're live, somebody asks a question, you actually get to hear the question. You just hear the answer. So some of that visibility there really could be helpful.
Brandon, did you have any favorite presentations this past weekend?
I would say that I got to be and hear Dr. Winters speak kind of twice because I heard one of her presentations there, and then also one of the niche rooms that we had was about functional approach to breast cancer, and then also how kind of FDN handled diet. So, and Dr. Winters was nice enough to come in there and kind of help moderate and answer some questions. And so got to hear from her twice. And I'd actually, one of the people I'd I think I've heard of her before, but didn't really know much about what she did, her background, or anything at all. So it was good to get to meet her and to learn from her, and again, her affirming some of the things that we already know that she's seeing with, working with lots and lots of people. So she was new to me, and so we actually had a decent amount of time together, and I was very impressed with what she had and her approach to things, and her. She just seemed like our speakers just so much fit in with the groove and the feel and the vibe of our group. And many of them commented that, we've got a little something special that's going on there. There's an energy, there's an excitement there, but I always hear lots of compliments about just our group and the questions that we ask and the intelligence of our questions and the heart behind that and some of the energy there. That's also good to hear. So I think, maybe Dr. Winters was when I maybe had the most time with, and had a lot of things I want to go back and kind of, like you said, comb through.
Yeah, great answer. I was actually going to say that Dr. Nasha Winters was definitely one of my top three. She was just really well-spoken and clear, and just a really fascinating presentation with a lot of good, juicy information on, she kind of covered like metabolic flexibility and insulin resistance and ketogenic diets. And it was just very well done.
Indeed. Makes me want to come back home and do some fasting, really kind of jump into that more than I have in the past, personally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that came up, I guess depending on which presentations you viewed, but that came up in a few this weekend. I've always noticed that there tends to be a kind of a cluster of themes each year at the conference, and that one came up a lot: intermittent fasting, and all of the metabolic benefits that come along with that.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I like the fasting aspect because this isn't fasting's not a new thing. It's been around, I don't know, since the dawn of mankind. So it's not a new thing. It's an old thing that we're realizing that has a lot of benefits, right? A lot of times it's tied with spiritual practices, which has a benefit as far as that goes, by all the physical side of things. It's not some new supplement. It's not some, I guess maybe supplement. Not that I love the whole supplement industry. I love supplements. We've been in, had a kind of a little bit of retail background there at the health food store before we found FDN. So I like all of that stuff. I like to take supplements. I like to find the new, latest, and greatest things and that. But I like it also when we take these old principles and then bring them up to the modern times and say, hey, we've forgotten this because with modern society, the worst thing in the world is to skip a meal, right, or to be uncomfortable at any time. That's just kind of our society, at least in the United States and probably most of the world. That's what you do. You don't, skipping meals is not something that's it's not taboo, but it's just like there's no need to skip a meal. We have food aplenty, and you should be able to eat 5 times a day if you wanted to, or 6 times a day if you want to. But to take a concept like that, all the benefits there, and bring that forward to now and put the spotlight back on something like that, I think it's a really good thing. So I personally was kind of convicted about that and encouraged to do some more things like that, especially after our experience with Prolon. Heather doing some of those and her good experience with that. So I think it's always cool again, and it's also something that really it's more or less free, right? It's another free thing that we've been given, like sunlight and fresh air and exercise and sleep. Not everything within a dress protocol costs a lot of money. Yeah, you can pay for a fasting mimicking diet. You can pay for some things to help maybe make the process easier or ways to monitor it. But fundamentally, you really don't have to. It doesn't cost you anything to fast. You actually, in some ways, you're going to save some money. So I love those things that are just sort of gifts that we have that are built in that we just have to take the time and do and experience instead of just simply grabbing a pill for every ill. That's not FDN either. It's diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, supplementation. Supplements are part of it, and there will be in most protocols, but it's not the only thing. And there's so many things we can do with the rest of those that really have to be, we said this many times on the call, those are kind of the fundamentals there. Even if you do restore most function in the body, it doesn't mean you can go back to your old diet and lifestyle, because that's what's got you there in the first place, right? I think Paul Chek talks about that. So the key to restoring function and health is to do the opposite of the things that got you there. So you can't go back to that old way of living. you might be able to have a little more freedom there with diets and things like that. But generally, you've got to keep those fundamentals there. So I like it that, hey, I can do some sort of fasting, some method of fasting that's not going to cost me anything. I'm going to reap tons of benefit from, and I don't have to, find a pill for it.
Yeah, all really good points. And, I had a call earlier this week when I was in San Diego. I was still taking some calls remotely, and I was speaking with a client. It was actually on Wednesday, and we've been working for a while together for a little over a year, and one of her primary goals has been weight loss. And, we tried kind of a lot of the low-hanging fruit stuff. We did work through dress. We worked through her GI map protocols and hormone testing and HTMA and all that, but she still wasn't really seeing a lot of results with losing weight. So the last time I talked to her prior was a couple months ago, and we had talked a lot about intermittent fasting and the potential benefits of that, and maybe having her give that a try. And I was just blown away because I talked to her 2 days ago, and it was exactly 60 days later, and when we caught up, she had lost 26 pounds in that 60-day period doing intermittent fasting.
Oh my! Wow.
Yeah. And so here's the remarkable thing: she didn't change the amount she was eating. Right. That's the thing about intermittent fasting. Right. It's important to emphasize this too. For example, there are contraindications if you have a history of eating disorders. For example, intermittent fasting may not be good for you. In this case, she was still eating the same amount of calories, just in a restricted eating window, right? Within an 8-hour window, roughly between, I believe, like 11 a.m. and 7 was her refeeding window, sometimes it's called. And outside of that, she was doing 16 hours of fasting. But during that time, she was, getting all of the same amount of calories that she normally would. So that's kind of the magic of intermittent fasting. And it's not to say it's going to work for everybody, but it can be a pretty powerful adjunct therapy to, kind of add to your therapeutic bag of tricks. And like you said, it doesn't cost anything. And all you're doing is kind of changing the window where you're not eating, maybe you're not eating breakfast. You're not eating first thing in the morning, and you're waiting till lunchtime to have your first meal. And the idea is not to be restrictive. This is not like a starve yourself type approach by any means, but it can be really powerful. Like just kind of shifting that window can have all kinds of metabolic benefits for improving insulin sensitivity. It's even been shown to turn off the genes that promote inflammation. It's been shown to have anti-aging benefits. So I'm a big fan. I've been doing it personally for a couple of years now. Maybe not every single day of the week, but at least like 4 or 5 days out of the week. And I've seen all kinds of biomarkers improve as a result, and just subjectively just tend to feel more mental clarity and energy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it takes coming together at a conference like ours, or even doing like the group fast they have with the Prolon, to really solidify something in your mind. I'm even admitting it now. It's like, yeah, I know about fasting. I've heard about it intellectually. I understand it. Have I done a lot of it? No. And I want. And now after talking with people, hearing some more of the science behind it, just that collective group, us all talking about it, it's convicted me about that. It's like, hey, you need to do some of that. You need to try that. You need to bring that into your practice, working with clients. So sometimes it takes going to an event like this to have kind of that moment, like, hey, this is really, I'm hearing this from everybody. Maybe it's something I really need to look into. So again, another reason not just to don't isolate yourself. Be part of the community. AFDNP. There's lots of ways to be connected with the FDN community, with AFDNP. Even just doing medical director consults. You're still connecting with the group in that way. Things like the conference, obviously. Tune in on our Friday call, jumping on some of our Zoom calls and live calls that we have there kind of throughout the week for grads and for trainees. Staying connected with people. That's one of the biggest reasons why I like to go to things like this, because it's you become kind of the average of the people that you hang out with. There's energy. There's things to be This is what always happens for me, is that I come into the FDN conference. This happened last several years, the last 3 years here. I come into the FDN conference with some things that I have been kind of in the back of my mind that either need some clarification or I need to kind of get a little bit of the final push to incorporate or do. And invariably, without me even forcing it, those conversations and the information either comes up from presenters or just conversations with people. I jumped in, and Jen and I had some good conversations about business. Ryan and I had some conversations about some different aspects of testing and some markers and things that I had kind of in my mind trying to connect some dots. A lot of conversations about that, and these things weren't things I was actually asking about. They just kind of come to you. So there's a power in being around people of like mind and then getting to just have those conversations. And this is the first year that my wife's been able to join me. Heather, a lot of you guys know Heather. First time she's got to come to the conference and enjoy that. And she just loved the conversations because, she's in this world as well, but just sitting down and talking about different aspects, different experiences, different things, those conversations you have that it's just kind of hard to pull those together sometimes. But so she leaves excited, which is good for our business. She has a lot with my practice, helps out a ton in many, many ways. It benefits our business collectively because she's getting that experience also. And I'm not trying to relay that to her. She's there and has experienced it and heard that, and she has her own takeaways. And we have usually lots of conversations throughout the next week after the conference about different aspects and things that we learn, and just makes us better practitioners. And again, just reaffirms what we're doing and reignites something. Plus, you're just disconnected for a while. We get away, recharge our batteries a little bit. All those things kind of coming together. So we leave a weekend like that. Maybe this year I don't think it's as fatigued. I don't think, but in a good way. You've gone through this really cool process, almost like I guess with fasting. You don't always feel great every minute of whatever kind of fasting that you're doing, but the net result at the end is so much better.
And it gets easier too. When I first started doing it, I definitely felt that kind of shakiness and that kind of hypoglycemic response that you might feel when you're really, really hungry. But it only took about a week or so to get over that hump. And now I can go 16-hour stretches, sometimes 18, without breaking a sweat, and feel pretty good. So there can be kind of an adjustment period, without a doubt. But sometimes what I'll have people do as a way to ease into it is start with 12 hours. You don't have to just jump right in the deep end. Start with 12 hours, do that for a week, then do 13 hours, do that for a week, then 14 hours, do that for a week. You could just kind of slowly ease into it. Depends on your personality, right? If you're kind of a rip the Band-Aid off kind of person and you just want to go cold turkey, or if you want to kind of ease your way into it, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Brandon, I totally agree with your point. It was a lot of fun having all these kind of side conversations too afterwards about some of the material maybe we just saw in a presentation, or, you and I getting to go into some of the finer details and particulars of oat testing. I kind of joked at one point that it felt like it had a real college dorm room vibe going on there with all the computers and the DJ and the green screen. And it was a lot of fun. Yeah, I wish we could do wish we could do that more times a year.
Indeed. We'll see what we can do on that. See if we can put the idea in.
Yeah.
Well, cool, guys. So we've got about 25 minutes left in the show. So you guys, if you want to call in and make a comment about something about the conference here last weekend, or just ask a question about anything related to the work that we get to do, you guys are welcome to jump in and do that. If you guys want to hit 1 on your keypad there, I'll bring you on. Number to call in for that is 347-637-1378. And again, just hit 1 on the keypad and I'll bring you on there. I'll usually call out your area code and get your name and go from there. And we do have some guys live there, so thanks for tuning in, guys. Spending a little bit of time with us on your Friday afternoon, heading into, I guess, Halloween weekend. So thanks for spending time with us. So again, don't be shy if you want to jump on and make a comment. We'd love to hear from you. All right.
Yeah, guys. Okay, come on, call in. There's lots to talk about.
There is. Okay. So more takeaways from you, Ryan? I've got some questions that have been written in. We can kind of jump to some questions if we want to, or anything else that you wanted to bring up. We can kind of jump off of.
There was a few clinical pearls. I always walk away with a few. One was from Kiran Krishnan's presentation. He's, of course, the head kind of molecular biologist there at Microbiome Labs. So pretty much a genius. Guy's hyper intelligent. And one thing that stood out to me was he was talking about nutrients people take to support their immune system, like vitamin C, vitamin D, and zinc, for example. And in this presentation he did, it was on the connection between immunology and the microbiome. And long story short, without going into too much detail, he basically made this point that if you have a screwed up gut, if you have a dysbiosis, right, if you've got low commensal flora and you've got an overgrowth of opportunistic organisms and so on, you've got low diversity of normal flora in the gut, all of that would characterize what we call dysbiosis. He said if that's the case, that taking these nutrients are not going to do anything, right? That taking vitamin C, zinc, vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, other kinds of immune support supplements aren't going to do very much. And I thought that was pretty interesting, and also I thought it was more or less in alignment with what we teach in a sense as well, in the fact that we're not just kind of putting a Band-Aid on anything, right? We're really looking to restore the body from the inside out. And that you even, just to kind of give someone some supplement protocols, right? Sometimes I'll see these posts, even on the AFDNP group. We try to kind of diplomatically steer people in the right direction when they ask these kinds of questions. You'll have someone say, well, I have a friend that, wants to run just one test with me and doesn't really have much of a budget, right? Or can't run any tests at all. And I just want to give her some supplements for symptom A, B, or C. And, that's kind of just like practicing medicine. At that point, you're just using supplements instead of medication to treat symptoms. And that is just absolutely the antithesis of what we do and what we teach in the model and the lens through which we think, right? So kind of a parallel there too, right? Just this idea that taking supplements is not going to just boost your immune system magically if your whole system is screwed up and dysregulated, right? And it really does call for and emphasize doing this kind of deeper work and not just throwing a dart at the board and like so many people do, because they see these headlines, right? Take vitamin D, take some vitamin C, you're going to be good to go, you're going to be protected from COVID. Not quite that simple. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a sticking point for me, because I think it's a challenge not to do that. I've done that a lot of times, and I came back and regretted doing that, because I think it's our duty to tell people the truth about their body and their health, and it's not up for us to control their response to that information. It's just us to be the messenger, and they can do with the information what they want. So there's been times where I've said my truth and explained the situation and told them what I saw and where things need to go, and gave them my professional opinion about what needs to happen. And sometimes that information is taken gladly, and they love to hear that, and it's really accepted with gladness. Other times it's just flat out rejected, and that's okay, But I think that if we pretend that, hey, if you just take these few supplements here, this is going to fix everything, when it's not, I don't think that we're doing a very good service for people. And I think we have to know that we know the process and how the body works well enough to step up and to say that regardless of what the response is going to be. So I'm more bothered by those type of questions than I think maybe I ever have been, because of looking back and saying, hey, look at these people that I kind of led them to believe that is maybe possibly the case. Maybe you're different. Maybe you're the one that if you take these 3 supplements, it's going to fix every single thing. It's just not the truth. And so I think it's not deceptive. I don't know what the word is. There probably is some special word for this, but not deceptive on our part, but not being 100% truthful, I guess, by omission, deception by omission, I guess maybe we could call that. We're omitting important parts of this. And I think when you ultimately say, hey, at the end of the day, and look back at your career, look back at the last couple of years, how truthful were you? Did you speak the truth in love? Did you do this for their own good? Did you express these things for their own good? So, yeah, that's a big sticking point for me anymore. I have no problem just laying it out for people because that person can choose to take that information, and they can, you're not the only person they can get supplement advice from. It can be their friend or their neighbor that's selling some product. It can be the local health food store. If you're not going to give them the information, they're going to find it somewhere, right? But other people, they need to be challenged in that way. They need to be taken up to that next level and to realize it. So just because it's what they're asking for doesn't mean you can't have a conversation, speak some truth to them, explain the situation, and convert them from, hey, I'm just going to take some supplements to doing a full-fledged program and going fully in. I think that's where we always need to focus our energy and time and effort at getting better at expressing the truth about what it takes to be healthy, especially depending on who you're talking to, right? Some people, it's like, that 3 supplements, there's no way this is ever going to fix them. I've had a scenario here this summer. Actually, I'll give a quick story, then I'll stop this line of reasoning here. But
that's great.
I was working with doing an onboarding call with a family, and they had a 15-year-old boy that was not feeling great. Energy-wise wasn't very good, but through this was having a lot of depressive thoughts and was not mentally, emotionally in a good place. And they had gone to a local practitioner that said, "Oh, it looks like he's low in vitamin D and B12, and you probably need some zinc." And so I was talking with them, and that's what they were. Actually, I think I had the call, and then they had already set the appointment with the doctor or done the blood work, and they were going to go back and hear the results from that. And so I ended up having a second conversation and hearing what the doctor had recommended. And yes, based on the blood work, it looks like that potentially those are maybe low, or those are something that they possibly could benefit from. And I'll say a big possibly, right, because there's lots of things that factor into a protocol. Vitamin D is not good for everybody, right? B12 isn't just the old fix-all, right? We know these things. So I was just flat out said to them, I said, these 3 supplements here will not fix this problem. Based on what you're telling me, the other things that's going on, here's the areas that we're going to have to work on to get these things fixed. This will not work. I hope that it does. I want it to. I want it to be an easy fix. I want things to turn around real quickly. I want a 15-year-old boy to be functioning great and young. I want that for you. But in my personal experience and time and learning and training, this will not do it. You're going to have to come back and address these things fully and completely. This will not do it. And it was a hard thing to do, to say that to them. But I just know that if something were to happen, tragically, or something else, just learned of something later on, I'll know that I spoke my truth to them. And I've said, hey, this is what I believe. This is what I know to be true based on what you're telling me. Here's the best thing. Here's what you need to do to dissolve this thing completely and fully. These 3 supplements will not fix this. It is what it is. They decide not to work with me. Haven't heard from them in months, and that's okay by me.
So many good truth bombs you're dropping, Brandon. That's awesome. And it's important too to draw those kind of boundaries because it's your reputation on the line, right? I did this. I have a similar story where I did run one lab for a friend, and he did see some success and some improvement, but by no means a complete resolution of his primary health challenges. And I explained to him, I gave him the full disclaimer that, this is kind of like working with one puzzle piece in a puzzle box, right? We don't have all the other pieces we need to see the complete picture. And, that being said, like I said, he saw some moderate progress, but then this was like a situation you never want to run into. He had referred me to a friend of his as a referral, and I had a sales call with this prospect. And on that call, she said, "Oh yeah, your friend said that the work that you did with him didn't really help." And I was like, "Wow, that was painful." And real, and it was a valuable lesson, right? Because not only I told this person that this wasn't going to work if we just ran one lab and tried to magically make all of his lifelong symptoms go away, right? But then he went and told someone else that I didn't end up helping him fully in the way that he had hoped, right? So that's the thing, you always have to consider that too, and how, they say in the world of business, we took a lot of business courses in college, business and marketing courses, and one thing that comes up a lot in any marketing course you'll take is that bad news travels, about 10 times faster than good news. Mm-hmm. So there's an asymmetry there, right? There's an asymmetric balance between, someone is much more likely to talk poorly or negatively about your services if you do a bad job than they are to talk positively about you. So it's unfortunate, but it's kind of just human nature. So yeah, all that being said, now I just refuse to work that way. I just refuse to do it, right? I tell people, I have a system, right? And it's, you either get it and you want to do this fully and completely and be all in, and you're just on fire about being totally dedicated to this really deep dive and the most comprehensive investigation into your health you'll ever conduct in your life. Basically what I tell people, or I'm not just going to give you a few supplements or run a lab, because I don't want anyone saying that I don't know what I'm doing or I did a crappy job. Yeah. And you were talking, Brandon, about just random supplements like B12, vitamin D. There are contraindications for everything, right? And that emphasizes why there's not a one-size-fits-all approach. A couple people know that I like to get kind of detailed and nerdy. There's a couple examples I can give you with those two specific supplements. With vitamin D, there's a study that I show people often, and I actually might even have it open on my computer because people know I have 100 tabs open. It was in a journal called, I think, Inflammation. It was published in 2014, and it basically talked about low vitamin D. Here's the takeaway. It talks about low vitamin D being a symptom or a consequence of inflammation. So what that means is if you see someone with low vitamin D and assume they just have low vitamin D levels, simple. I just give them vitamin D. I plug the hole. It brings their vitamin D back up. Nope, think again, right? Their low vitamin D actually might be a symptom or a consequence of inflammation, and you might not be able to get that level up just with plugging that hole or masking it with a supplement. You have to get to the root of addressing the metabolic chaos and reducing all those sources of chronic inflammation. You might not even need a vitamin D supplement if you're working at that deeper level, right? So that's something where, just giving someone vitamin D for low vitamin D levels may not do anything whatsoever to help them or to help support their immune system. And then, another one with B12, this is something that Dr. Amy Yasko talks about. She's written a lot of kind of more functionally minded books on the topic of nutrigenomics. And Piper Gibson did a really great presentation at the conference on nutrigenomics. So shout out to her. I thought she did a really great job. It was a solid presentation. Something Amy Yasko talks about is that you need the trace mineral lithium to transport B12 into the cell. So you might see someone, you're giving them B12 supplements and their B12 is not moving. It might actually be they're lithium deficient. That's something you actually can detect on an HTMA. The trace elements version of the HTMA test has a lithium marker. And we're not talking about lithium like the drug that is prescribed for bipolar disorder. We're just talking about a trace mineral. I believe lithium is found, it is found in a number of foods naturally. It's a naturally occurring trace element or mineral in the diet. And if I'm not mistaken, there's decent amounts of lithium in coffee. I know there are other foods too, but that's the one I remember off the top of my head. So for one reason or another, maybe due to poor digestion, someone might not be getting enough trace amounts of lithium in their diet, and they're not utilizing that B12. So again, I didn't mean to go into this deep kind of tangent on all these specific mechanics, but I just want to explain too that it's not always just so simple as seeing low B12, low vitamin D, and just giving someone those supplements without doing a deeper dive. You're definitely in most cases going to do a disservice. You might get lucky, you might hit the bullseye. It's kind of but it is kind of like spinning the chamber, right? And once in a while you might get lucky doing that, but it's not really good practice, and it's a disservice to the client. It's a disservice to the FDN model and this FDN community, right? Like, it's not just yourself that's on the line. Like, you also represent this larger community of FDNs and functional practitioners. And for that reason, like, I want to always deliver the best possible service to people and always over-deliver as much as I can, so that I'm doing my own service and doing my reputation a service, and the larger, this kind of larger functional model at large, right? Because I want to win people over. I want people to see the light, and I want them to have that experience and share that with their friends and family, so that we can change the world. And rant.
Well put. Oh, it's great. And I could probably give a few more other reasons why some of those things we talk about will be contraindicated to people. So there's multiple reasons why. That's why you've got to have a deeper look. And just kind of going back to the things we talked about here in the beginning of the call. So you can't reduce it down to one vitamin. I don't care what it is. There are some really powerful, amazing ones that we do need that we might be actually truly deficient in. And if you take it, you could feel a lot better. I won't deny that for sure. I've had that experience also. But ultimately, it can't be reduced down just to one thing because everything is all interactive. And there's that ripple effect, like we're talking about. You can't, the reductionistic one root cause just has been debunked, through observation. You can just see that. It's like, hey, this is not the case. So it comes back again to those principles. So it's not just one thing. It's multiple different areas to look at, and the ripple effect thereof, like a positive snowball in a good way. You've got that aspect of it, and it's always about, okay, well, why is your thyroid underactive? Why is your cholesterol high? Why are your triglycerides high? Why are you tired? It's always about that deeper why question, and figuring out those, as much as we can, underlying root metabolic processes that need some support, that need to be addressed and looked at, and the process that you take a person through. That it's going to take more than a couple weeks. It's going to take a little bit of time because that malfunction is developed over years of doing a lot of things maybe we didn't realize, especially, growing up when I did. I think I've said this before, I felt like the 90s were like the dark ages of nutrition in a lot of ways, probably the 80s too. There weren't a lot of health food stores, a lot of information. There wasn't knowledge about gluten-free. Maybe there were some fringe people that, knew about this 50 years ago, and there was some random obscure book you could read, but it wasn't so mainstream. So now it's not an excuse for a lack of information. I think it's almost too much information that's out there. We've got to get it boiled down to what's really important and what is right for that person individually, going back to biochemical individuality, another big tenet and focus of Principle of FDN. Everybody's different. One diet does not fit all. One exercise program does not fit all. Maybe one sleep cycle, like Ron, you and I were having a conversation this weekend about, okay, maybe not one sleep cycle fits all. Certainly not one supplement protocol fits all. Right, exactly. So it's a discovery process, and those labs are going to help you to compress time and shortcut that process of discovering biochemically what is right for that person. And the rest of the time with your program is going to be discovering that observationally and clinically, and trying this and trying that, and listen to the body and getting the feedback until you come to as much truth about that person's body and their biochemistry as possible. It's a cool process. It's like archaeology. It's like it's there. It's in the ground, but you've got to dig it out. You've got to discover it. Now, I think with lab testing, we get to it's probably a bad analogy because you don't do this with archaeology. As far as I know, taking a big backhoe and digging down and getting a huge scoop and of that site and laying out what you're seeing there and quickly going through it. That's kind of what the lab work is. You get this big, huge scoop, and you get to look at all this information that's hidden that we don't know about. And then you go back to the rest of the process there, and you're down there in the dirt kind of picking through and getting the other fine-tuning points worked out. Till ultimately you have this information in front of you. Here's this person. Here's their biochemistry. And I think you got to look at it a little bit of an adventure and have it as kind of a fun process. That's why I look at it for each person. I don't know exactly what they're going to discover. I don't know what's in the ground. I don't think they kind of do either. So it's just this cool discovery process that we get to go through with each person.
Absolutely. All great points. And, it's interesting that you said that the 80s and 90s were definitely dark ages for nutrition. Even the early 2000s, I could tell you that I went gluten-free in 2006. So I did it long before it was in style or fashionable. It's been that's 14 years I've been gluten-free strictly. And, at that time in 2006, there was definitely not a Whole Foods in every city. Maybe they had just started springing up in certain places. And gluten-free items were really, really rare and hard to find. And if you were to request a gluten-free meal at a restaurant, you usually would get kind of a puzzled look and a deer in headlights look, right? There weren't restaurants that had these designations like GF, like you see at many restaurants now. So it was a lot harder then, right? Now we have we've got Oura rings, we've got personal, affordable at-home saunas, we've got biomats, we've got mold-free coffee, we've got all these apps that can help you track fasting and can meditation apps. God, it's just like there's so many tools out now. There's never been a better time to do this kind of work. There's so many tools at your disposal. And no time like the present to work with an FDN or to become an FDN yourself, right? We talk about this all the time, but it's the best investment I've ever made in my entire life. It was a game changer.
Yeah, amen to that for sure. That was over 10 years ago. And just look back, I'm like, I can't imagine my life without it. I mean, I knew about some natural stuff, and I've talked about my story before, but we made some changes. We took some supplements. We shot in the dark with a lot of different supplements, and we made some dietary changes. Some of them weren't really good for me. Some of them were. We worked on hydration, worked on just some of the basics, and saw a lot of improvement. But still there were all these missing elements of a level of health that I just couldn't achieve without the lab testing side of things. And that goes from my family as well. And at this point, thousands of different people that I've gotten to work with through this process. And yeah, it's good to always come back, going back to the conference and Reed always speaking, kind of doing a retrospective look at FDN. And then he always looks forward as well. So where are we heading? What's the future of FDN look like? And there's good people at the helm. We've got an amazing team, and if anybody's going to be principled and stick to those principles, it's going to be Reed Davis. He's always been that way ever since the beginning, and in some ways he sounds, a little bit tough on us, but it's for our good because those principles don't change. But yeah, the lab testing and the labs we use and the technology and all these things that Ryan's mentioning here and what we're doing to make it easier and better to be an FDN practitioner through mostly kind of technology into the community, those things are going to change and improve and grow. But the principles, hey, they still stay the same. So, I don't know, maybe we talked about 5 or 6 different basic principles of FDN. That's what you got to commit to memory, and then you find your mix of labs and technology and things that work for your program. For me, bringing in more of the fasting side of things, something I'm going to take away. I'm going to bring more of that into my personal life and then also more into my clients. So I'm still growing and changing, but still the principles are going to always remain the same. All right. Well, about a minute left in the call here today, guys. So we're going to wrap it up here in just a minute. But I had several written in calls I grabbed from different pages. We'll cover those next week. We'll be talking to you guys then. And then those of you guys that tuned in, thanks for doing that and being with us, listening live. These calls are all archived and put into FDN Connect there for your listening pleasure. You can go back several years and listen to Friday calls and gather the information from those. And there's unique aspects of calls like this that you don't get from the material in the course. So I don't want to recommend you guys don't forget about the Friday calls. Even just go back 5 or 6 years or 7 years and listen to some of the different people we've had on and still glean and pull information from that. And I want to say congratulations to our 7 graduates. So Hannah, Tracy, Kelly, Alvaro, Kadia, Gary, and Patty. And I'll thank my good friend Ryan for being on with me again today here too. So Ryan, thanks for being on and enjoy the weekend with you.
Of course. Absolutely. Hope you enjoy your weekend too, and looking forward to talking next week.
Sounds good. Guys, have a good weekend and love you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.